There comes a moment, so quiet, so deeply personal, that you may not even recognize it at first. Nothing around you changes immediately. The same room, the same routine, the same responsibilities. And yet, something within you begins to stir. It is not loud, it is not forced, but it is undeniable. It is as though a gentle voice has found its way into the deepest part of your soul, whispering truths you cannot ignore. This is where it begins, the awakening that only the Holy Spirit can bring. You may try to explain it away, you may tell yourself it's just emotion, just a passing thought, just a phase. But it does not pass, it lingers, it returns in the quiet moments, in the stillness of the night, in the spaces where distraction can no longer cover it. And suddenly, things that once satisfied you begin to feel empty. Conversations that once entertained you now leave you restless. Places that once felt comfortable now seem unfamiliar. You cannot fully enjoy what you used to, and you cannot yet fully understand why. This is not confusion, this is calling. The Holy Spirit begins to awaken something eternal within you. Something that has always been there, but has never been fully alive. And as that awakening unfolds, you become aware of a truth that changes everything. Your life is not your own. There is a divine hand reaching toward you, drawing you closer, inviting you into something greater than you have ever known. At first, you may resist it. Oh, you may try to hold on to what is familiar. You may try to return to old patterns, old habits, old ways of thinking. But something has shifted. Even when you go back, you cannot stay there comfortably anymore. There is a holy discomfort that begins to follow you, a gentle but persistent reminder that you were not created to remain where you are. And that discomfort is not meant to harm you. It is meant to lead you. You begin to notice a growing awareness within your heart. It's as though your spirit has opened its eyes for the very first time. You start to see things differently, not just outwardly but inwardly. You begin to recognize attitudes, thoughts, and desires that once went unnoticed. And with that awareness comes a quiet longing. A longing to be different, to be clean, to be aligned with something pure and true. This is the Holy Spirit at work, not forcing you, not condemning you, but drawing you. And the more you feel it, the harder it becomes to ignore. It follows you into your decisions. It speaks in your silence. It gently interrupts your distractions. You may try to drown it out with noise, with busyness, with anything that keeps you from facing it, but it remains. Patient, unyielding in its love. There is something sacred about this moment in your life, even if it feels unsettling. Because this is where transformation begins, not on the outside, not in what people can see, but deep within the hidden places of your heart. This is where God begins to rewrite your story from the inside out. And slowly, without even realizing it, your heart begins to respond. You start to lean in instead of pulling away. You start to listen instead of resisting. There is a soft surrender that begins to take place. Not dramatic, not forced, but real. You begin to acknowledge that what you are feeling is not random. It is not accidental. It is divine. The awakening becomes clearer. It becomes stronger. And what once felt unfamiliar now begins to feel like home. You realize that this stirring, this longing, this gentle pull, it is not something to fear. It is something to follow. Because when the Holy Spirit awakens your soul, you cannot remain the same. And you will never again be satisfied with anything less than Him. And as this awakening deepens within you, something even more profound begins to take place. It is no longer just a gentle stirring or a quiet awareness. It becomes a holy conviction that reaches into the very core of who you are. You begin to feel a sensitivity you have never known before. Things that once seemed harmless now weigh heavily on your heart. Words you once spoke so freely now echo back to you with a different meaning. Attitudes you once justified now feel out of place within your spirit. This is not condemnation. This is not shame. This is the Holy Spirit, drawing a line between who you were and who you are being called to become. There is a difference, you see, between feeling guilty and being convicted. Guilt pushes you away, tells you to hide, convinces you that you are unworthy to come near. But conviction, oh, conviction calls you closer. It gently reveals what is not aligned, not to destroy you, but to transform you. It shines a light into the hidden corners of your heart, not to expose you before others, but to heal you before God. And when this conviction comes, it is unmistakable. It does not shout, but it is powerful. It does not force, but it is persistent. You may try to silence it, you may try to ignore it, but it continues to speak softly, clearly, truthfully. It reminds you that you were created for more than this, that there is a higher calling upon your life. You begin to feel a grief over things that once brought you comfort. Not because you are being punished, but because your spirit is being refined. It is as though something within you is saying, this no longer belongs in your life. And even if part of you wants to hold on, there is another part deeper, stronger, that longs to let go. This is the refining fire of the Holy Spirit. It is not always easy. In fact, there are moments when it feels deeply uncomfortable, because conviction requires honesty. It asks you to look within, to acknowledge what you may have avoided, to surrender what you may have held on to for far too long. But in that honesty there is freedom waiting. In that surrender there is transformation unfolding. You start to realize that this process is not about losing yourself, it is about finding who you were truly meant to be. Every time the Holy Spirit convicts you, it is an invitation. An invitation to step away from what binds you and step into what frees you. An invitation to release what is temporary and embrace what is eternal. And slowly something begins to change. You don't just recognize what is wrong, you begin to desire what is right. Your heart starts to shift. What once felt like a sacrifice now feels like a necessity. You no longer want to live the way you used to, not because you are forced to change, but because something within you has already changed. This is where true transformation begins. It is not in outward appearances or temporary efforts, but in the deep inward work of the Spirit. It is in the quiet decisions no one else sees. It is in the moments when you choose obedience over comfort, truth over convenience, surrender over control. These are the moments that shape you, that mold you, that draw you closer to the heart of God. And the beautiful thing is this, you are not doing it alone. The same Spirit that convicts you also strengthens you. The same voice that reveals also restores. You are being led step by step into a life that reflects His holiness, His purity, His love. So do not fear conviction when it comes. Do not run from it or try to silence it. Embrace it, for it is a sign that God is working within you, that you truly belong to Him. Because when the Holy Spirit convicts your heart, it is not to break you, it is to transform you completely. And as this work of conviction continues within you, something begins to shift in a way that is both subtle and undeniable. It is not something you force, it is not something you plan, it simply begins to happen. Your desires start to change. The things you once chased with such intensity begin to lose their hold on you, and in their place rises a longing you cannot quite explain. It is as though your heart is being rewired by the gentle hand of the Holy Spirit. You may notice it in the smallest moments at first. What once entertained you now feels empty. What once consumed your thoughts no longer satisfies. The pursuits that once defined your time and energy begin to fade in importance. And you find yourself asking questions you never asked before. Questions about purpose, about eternity, about what truly matters when everything else falls away. This is not a loss. This is a divine exchange. Because as those old desires begin to loosen their grip, new ones take their place. A hunger begins to rise within you. A hunger for truth, for purity, for something that goes beyond the temporary things of this world. You begin to desire time with God, not out of obligation, but out of longing. There is something within you that wants to be near Him, to hear Him, to know Him in a deeper way. And this desire does not feel forced, it feels natural, almost as if it was always meant to be there. You begin to notice that your priorities are no longer the same. The things you once placed at the center of your life begin to move to the edges, and God begins to take His rightful place at the center. Your time, your attention, your focus, they start to align in a new direction. And even when life tries to pull you back into old patterns, there is something within you that gently resists. It is the Spirit leading you. Even your relationships may begin to shift, conversations change, connections change. You may find yourself drawn to those who reflect the same hunger that is growing within you. And at the same time, you may feel a distance from environments that once felt comfortable. It is not about rejecting people. It is about recognizing that your spirit is being drawn toward what nourishes it. And there are moments when this shift feels challenging. Moments when you look at your life and realize how much is changing, how much is being rearranged. But deep within there is a peace that accompanies it. A quiet assurance that this is not chaos, this is alignment. You are being aligned with heaven. The Holy Spirit is not just removing things from your life, He is repositioning you. He is setting your heart on things that are eternal. Things that will not fade, things that carry the presence of God within them. And as this happens, you begin to experience a kind of fulfillment that the world could never give you. It is deeper, it is richer, it is lasting. You begin to understand that what you once thought you needed was never enough, and what you are now being drawn to is more than enough. There is a satisfaction in His presence, a peace in His will, a joy in His truth that surpasses anything you have known before. And the most beautiful part of it all is this. You are not striving for this change. You are not forcing yourself into it. It is happening within you, gently, steadily, faithfully, The Holy Spirit is shaping your desires, aligning your priorities, transforming your heart from the inside out. So do not resist this shift when it comes. Do not cling to what is fading, or try to hold on to what no longer fits who you are becoming. Trust the process, even when you do not fully understand it. Because when your desires begin to change, it is not something you are losing. It is a sign that you are finally becoming who you were created to be. And as your desires begin to change and your heart is drawn away from the things that once satisfied you, you will notice something even deeper unfolding within your soul. It is no longer just a shift in what you want. It becomes a deep, unexplainable hunger for the presence of God Himself. Not for what He can give, not for what He can do, but for Him. It begins quietly, almost like a whisper within your spirit. A longing that cannot be fully described, only felt. You may try to fill it with the usual things, your routine, your responsibilities, even the people around you, but nothing quite reaches it. Nothing quite satisfies it. And you begin to realize that this hunger is not natural, it is supernatural. It is the Holy Spirit drawing you closer. There will be moments when you find yourself seeking silence, not to escape the world, but to encounter something beyond it. Moments when your heart begins to turn toward God, without effort, without planning. You may find yourself wanting to pray, not because you have to, but because you need to. And even when you don't have the words, even when you don't know what to say, there is something within you that simply wants to be near Him. This is not religion, this is relationship. And as this hunger grows, prayer begins to change. It is no longer a routine you check off your day, it becomes a place you enter. A place where time seems to slow down, where distractions begin to fade, where your spirit becomes aware of something holy, something real. You may not see anything with your eyes, but you sense it. You feel His presence surrounding you, drawing you deeper, holding you in a way nothing else ever has. And worship. Worship becomes something entirely different. It is no longer just words or melodies. It becomes an encounter. There are moments when your heart is so full, so overwhelmed by His presence, that words cannot contain it. And in those moments, it is as though heaven touches earth, and your soul responds in a way you never thought possible. This hunger does not come from you. You did not create it. You cannot manufacture it. It is the Holy Spirit, placing within you a desire that only God can fulfill. And the more you respond to it, the stronger it becomes. You begin to find that the presence of God is no longer something distant. It becomes something you carry, something you seek, something you cannot live without. Even in the middle of your daily life, there is an awareness, a sensitivity, a quiet connection that remains with you. It follows you into your thoughts, into your decisions, into your every moment. And yet with this hunger comes a realization. Nothing in this world can replace it. No success, no recognition, no possession can satisfy what your soul now craves. You may try, even unintentionally, to fill that space with other things, but they will always fall short. Because this hunger has a single purpose, to draw you into intimacy with God. There will be times when this longing feels almost overwhelming. Times when you cannot explain why your heart feels so restless until you step into His presence again. And when you do, there is a peace that comes, a completeness that settles within you, reminding you that this is where you belong. This is where your soul finds rest. And so you begin to rearrange your life, not out of duty but out of desire. You make room for Him, you prioritize His presence. Not because you are trying to prove anything, but because you have discovered something priceless, something you cannot live without. And the world may not understand it. Others may not see what you feel, but deep within you know. You know that this hunger is real. You know that this presence is everything. So do not ignore it when it calls you. Do not push it aside when it stirs within you. Lean into it. Follow it. Let it lead you deeper and deeper into the presence of God. Because when your soul begins to hunger for Him in this way, it is no longer just a desire. It is a divine invitation you cannot afford to resist. And as you continue to respond to that deep hunger for His presence, something remarkable begins to unfold in your life. Something that once felt impossible now becomes attainable. The very things that used to hold you captive begin to loosen their grip, and you find, almost unexpectedly, that you are able to let go. Not by your own strength, not by sheer determination, but by the quiet, steady power of the Holy Spirit working within you. There were things you once thought you could never walk away from, habits that felt deeply rooted, patterns that seemed unbreakable, attachments that had woven themselves into your daily life so tightly that the thought of releasing them felt overwhelming. You may have tried before in your own effort to change, to do better, to be better, but it never seemed to last. The cycle would repeat and discouragement would follow. But this time something is different. This time it is not just you trying to let go. It is the Spirit of God within you. giving you the strength you never had before. And it does not always happen all at once. Sometimes it is gradual, step by step, layer by layer. But there is a clear shift taking place. The desire to hold on begins to weaken, and the desire to be free begins to rise. You start to see those things differently. What once brought comfort now feels like a burden. What once felt necessary now feels like a weight on your spirit. And instead of clinging to it, you begin to feel a willingness, a readiness to release it. Even if it's difficult. There may be moments of struggle, moments when the old pull tries to draw you back. But there is something stronger now, something deeper. A quiet voice reminding you of who you are becoming. A gentle strength that helps you take one step forward even when everything in you feels uncertain. And in those moments you begin to realize that you are not fighting alone. The Holy Spirit empowers you in ways you cannot explain. There is a grace that meets you in your weakness, a strength that rises when yours feels insufficient. You begin to do what you once could not do, walk away from what once held you, and choose what is right even when it is not easy. And as you let go, something beautiful happens. You begin to feel lighter. There is a freedom that enters your soul, a freedom that is not based on circumstances, but on release. The weight you carried for so long begins to lift, and in its place comes peace. Not temporary peace, not fragile peace, but a deep abiding peace that reassures you that you are on the right path. And it is in this process that you begin to understand something powerful. Letting go is not loss, it is liberation. You are not losing anything of true value. You are being freed from what was holding you back, from what was keeping you from stepping fully into the life God has prepared for you. Every release creates space. Every surrender opens the door for something greater. Even relationships may be part of this letting go. Not out of bitterness, not out of rejection, but out of alignment. There are times when the Holy Spirit gently leads you away from certain connections that no longer support who you are becoming. And though it may be painful, there is a peace that follows obedience. Because you begin to trust that what God removes, He replaces with something better. And so you continue, step by step, choice by choice, letting go of what no longer belongs, releasing what once defined you, walking away from what once controlled you. And with every step, you feel the evidence of His power within you. This is not self-improvement, this is transformation. And the testimony of your life begins to speak not in words alone but in change. Real change, visible change. The kind that cannot be explained by effort alone, but only by the presence of God working within you. So when the moment comes to let go, do not resist it. Do not hold on out of fear or familiarity. Trust the one who is leading you. Trust the Spirit who is strengthening you. Because when the Holy Spirit gives you the power to release what once held you captive, you are no longer bound. You are finally free. And as this transformation continues, this awakening, this conviction, this shifting of desires, this deep hunger, this powerful release, you arrive at a place where something within you can no longer remain hidden. What God has been doing in you begins to move through you. It is no longer just personal. It becomes visible. It becomes evident. It becomes alive in the way you live, the way you speak, the way you carry yourself each day. There is a boldness that begins to rise within you. Not a loud or aggressive boldness, not something rooted in pride or self-confidence, but something far deeper. It is a quiet, unshakable courage that comes from knowing who you belong to. Fear begins to lose its grip on you, not because life becomes easier, but because your foundation has changed. You are no longer standing on your own strength. You are standing in the power of the Holy Spirit. There were things you once hesitated to say, moments when you held back, when you stayed silent out of fear of what others might think. But now, something has shifted. There is a clarity within you, a conviction that cannot be suppressed. And when the moment comes, you find yourself speaking, not perfectly, not forcefully, but truthfully. You begin to reflect Him. It shows in your words. There is a sincerity, a weight, a love behind what you say. You are not speaking to impress or to prove anything. You are speaking because something within you compels you to. The same Spirit that awakened you, that convicted you, that transformed you, now begins to flow through you, reaching others in ways you may not even fully understand. And it is not just in your words, it is in your actions, in the way you respond when others would react, in the way you choose peace when conflict arises, in the way you extend grace when it is not deserved. There is a difference in you, and people begin to notice it, not because you are trying to stand out, but because the presence of God within you cannot be hidden. There may still be moments when fear tries to return, moments when you feel the tension between stepping forward and holding back. But even then, there is something stronger within you, a gentle push, a quiet assurance, a reminder that you are not alone, and you begin to step forward anyway, one step of obedience at a time. You realize that boldness is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to move forward despite it, trusting that the Holy Spirit will meet you in that step. And every time you do, your faith grows stronger. Your confidence in Him deepens, and what once felt difficult begins to feel natural. You become a vessel, not perfect, not without flaws, but willing, available, open to be used. Your life begins to carry a message, not just in what you say, but in who you are. And that message reaches people. It touches hearts. It creates moments that only God could orchestrate. There will be times when you do not even realize the impact you are having. A simple word, a quiet act of kindness, a moment of truth spoken in love, and something shifts in someone else's life. This is how the Spirit works. Not always in grand displays, but often in the quiet, faithful expression of a life surrendered to Him. And you begin to understand that this boldness is not for you, it is for others. You are being used as a light, a reflection, a living testimony of what God can do in a life that is fully yielded to Him. And there is a joy in that, a deep fulfillment that comes from knowing that your life is no longer just about you. It is about His purpose flowing through you. So you stop holding back. You stop silencing what God has placed within you. You begin to walk in it, speak in it, live in it, day by day, moment by moment, not striving for perfection but surrendering to His leading. Because when the Holy Spirit fills your life in this way, you cannot remain hidden. You become a living witness of His power.